Hey everyone, it's Mimi. Another quarantine lesson. Previously, we have gone over the treble clef, the bass clef, the staffs, the grand staff, and the names of the lines and spaces and how best to remember them, or at least how I choose to remember them personally. Whatever you come up with is wonderful. But music doesn't just have to do with pitch, it also has to do with time, with timing. So, how do we figure out what kind of timing music has? Well, that has to do with something called a time signature. Before we cover that, though, let's go ahead and talk about how the staff that we talked about previously is divided up into measures and units of time, so to speak, as far as written music is concerned. So I've already gone ahead and drawn a 5-line staff up here. Okay. Music is divided into what are called measures. Okay. Measures are little units of time that we see on the page, and each measure is divided by what we call a bar line. So let me go ahead and write some in here, okay? In your average sheet of music, you're going to find your clef right here. Let's go ahead and do a treble clef right here as a default. Then you're going to see something called a time signature, which we will come back and revisit. And then you're going to see lines that are dividing the staff up into bits and pieces. Okay? These lines are called bar lines. Okay? So we've got bar lines. There's another bar line here. Okay? Now, a measure is what we call the space between the two bar lines right over here. We call this a measure. Okay? So this is a bar line, this is a bar line. The space in between the two right here is a measure. Space in between this bar line and this bar line is also a measure. Okay? So you can see where I'm going with this. Okay? I'll elaborate on the time signature a little bit more in a moment. But if you rewatch this, I want you to be able to refer back to this. Looking at the time signature here, there are two numbers. There's a 4 on the top and there's a 4 on the bottom. Now it's not always going to be the same time signature, but in this case, this is the time signature that we're going to start out with today. Okay? The most important number to pay attention to when you are starting out is the top number in the time signature. Okay? This is 4/4 time. You just say the top number and then you say the bottom number. You don't necessarily say 4/4 or 4/4, or some people do, but generally the accepted way of getting the time signature across is saying 4/4. Okay? So the top number is going to tell us how many counts we have per measure, how many beats we have per measure. Okay? So, this case, we have 4 beats per measure. Okay, the first one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we see a bar line, so we're going to start over on the next measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we see another bar line, so we're going to start over on the third measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is how music is divided up and how you know how many beats per measure there are. All music has a rhythm, all music has a beat. It's one of the two major components to music. So we gotta get like the technical mathematical stuff out of the way so that we understand the proper language to use when communicating with other musicians and when understanding what a composer wants us to be able to play and interpret when we're looking at a written piece of music that maybe we've never heard before. So I'll give you a moment or two to take that all in. As usual, if you have any questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to text me, message me. You guys have my number at this point in time, and I will be back in another video to talk a little bit more about time signatures. Thanks!